Hey guys, Chad Hoover, Kayak Bassing TV. So here's the deal. When it's raining and you can't fish, what do? You go buy fishing stuff. You go talk about fishing. You go hang out in a tackle shop. So I'm here in Rogers, Arkansas at Hook, Line, and Sinker. And they've got 3 locations in Northwest Arkansas for all of your outdoor needs. They've got an archery shop. They've got some hunting stuff, primarily fishing focused right here in the store in Rogers. And so I'm going to turn it over to John in just a second, but I'm going to kind of set the table for you. Right now, it's early October, as in it's October 4th. It's still late summer, and fall is just starting to start to happen. The days are shorter, so the fish are moving to the places that they're going to be for the fall bite, but they're not biting like a fall bite. So far, the most success I've had has been on a twin tail grub on a Ned rig or a 1/2 ounce jig with a crawl trailer on it, just kind of dead stick. They're sitting in their face. They'll follow a wake bait, they'll follow a topwater, they'll follow a crankbait, but we've caught very few fish on power fishing presentations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to John, let him tell you what the top 3 lures that he'd be throwing right now that Hook, Line, and Sinker offers. And then I'm going to show you what I'm buying, see if they match up. And then I'm also going to let John tell you when you should come into Arkansas if right now is not the time. So John, tell everybody exactly, where you would fish, why you would fish there, and how you would fish if you had to fish right now. And then give us the best case scenario if you're going to come to Northwest Arkansas and plan a trip, when that should be.
Well, right now it's always the toughest time of the year on highland reservoirs. Table Rock, Beaver, Grand, all these lakes are really tough in September, October. It gets better the end of October. Right now they're, like he says, they're in a transition. They haven't moved to the back of the cove. They're really not feeding on just chasing shad. So they're still main lake, and drop shot is your number 1 at this point, finding humps and rock piles, and they've kind of moved to those, and you can catch a few fish that way. Smallmouth with jig and pig is the other on main lake points. You get lucky, you can get they'll move up and catch them. And you always, on beaver, you always have topwater because there's always schooling fish. You never know when a big school is going to come up, so you always want a topwater tied on at all times. Even in bright sunshine during the day, you want it tied on. But basically, plastics right now and jig and pigs is your main baits.
All right, so let me show you what I've already put on the counter, and I'm getting ready to buy. And there's going to be 2 reasons why I've got what I've got. One is what I know I can catch them on, and B, what I can hope I can catch them on. I always like to be the first guy that's getting that hot bite. So here's what I got. Picked up a couple of sexy dogs in colors that I didn't have when I brought with me, so I'm always going to have that topwater tied on. Bought a couple of shad colored crankbaits, but I'm going to fish them in a rip and stop just below the surface, more like a wake bait by holding a rod tip up, not so much fishing it like a 1.5 deflecting off a cover looking for that reaction strike, because we're just not getting a reaction strike right now. I picked up this color just to see if it's a little different in the single tail grub from Gary Yamamoto, because I've been doing really well on the double tail, the twin tail grub. But what I like about this color is it is a little bit translucent. It looks like a bait fish, and I'm going to fish this 2 ways. I'm going to fish it on a drop shot rig, and I'm also going to fish it on this finesse jig head, but the weedless kind, so I can throw it up in the rock. So Z-Man makes this perfect little bait for this. It's a Ned rig head, and then I'm going to buy some of these round ball, in-house jig heads that they make, in both round head for fishing the rocks and football for fishing the wood. And I'm going to throw a crawfish bait on that and just soak it in a little scent, put it out there, put it up against the wood and rock in the cracks, and let it sit there. The bass aren't chasing. When they do chase, they're not eating, but that's why I got this wake bait. All right, this bait is cool because you can throw it out there and let it sit dead still. Slow reel it, it goes down a little bit. When you let it go, it just pops right back to the top. So a lot of times when you find those fish schooling, you can get them to eat it, but you can also put it over the top of a brush pile and twitch it and slow reel it, twitch it and slow reel it, and you can convince one of the more aggressive fish to come up to the top and pop it. And then that's the same reason that I'm going to pick up a popper, because a lot of times when they're not fully committed to that topwater bite, and they're not chasing shad like John said, if you pop that popper and let it sit and it stays in the strike zone longer, it gives them that much more of an opportunity to talk themselves to either coming up and blasting it or just coming up and slurping it off the top like they'll do with these a lot of times. But what I'm expecting to have the most success on is something small, something dragged, or something tag teamed, meaning I'm going to put a drop shot hook, a foot up the line, have the jig head on the bottom, have the drop shot on the top, and then I'm going to be trying to double dip and catch those fish. So didn't exactly line up, But again, that's why we all experiment. A lot of what he said I already have with me, and I have that in the arsenal, but this is the stuff that I'm picking up that I didn't bring with me to try to get out there and catch some fish. We're fishing primarily Bella Vista, the lakes out of Bella Vista. We're moving over to Elm Creek. We're gonna do Lincoln tomorrow and Elm Creek as well. So probably gonna come back and fish beaver when it's a little cooler, and when the boat traffic's a little less, because I fish out of a kayak. And but anyway, that's kind of hoping what I was hoping you would confirm, that, you know, that late October, early November. This is kind of the same latitudes where I live in Tennessee, and so it's dead on with the same kind of concepts for Kentucky Lake and Chickamauga, and a little bit earlier than Dale Hollow and places like that. So it's a big lake. It's got a lot of little pockets and coves and creeks. It's been 21 years since I fished beaver, but I have fished other lakes around here that we're going to show you guys this week. But if you're in the area, if you're anywhere in Northwest Arkansas, especially if you're staying in Bentonville, Rogers, Bella Vista, Springdale, you got to come to Hook, Line, and Sinker to get geared up, because I got everything you need.